Great. So thanks again for joining and good to see you, everybody. We are getting into our lesson B for this Operator Intermediate 1 course and course unit number 1. So we have been um, going back to the basics, if we can call it that way. We have been uh, just refreshing some of the basic things and of course, applying it in different contexts. And we realized that maybe they were not that basic, or maybe they were not that easy. When you have a lot of tenses and you have a lot of options and you mix them, it becomes a little bit more difficult to identify what is the right tense for this, what is the purpose of the sentence, how can I build this better way. So that is what we have been trying to do for the past 2 days. And today we are moving forward to another topic that probably you're going to yeah, you're probably going to remember. Um, but we're gonna give it a little twist and maybe provide some examples. So I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with the topic gerunds and infinitives. This is something that we studied somewhere around pre-intermediate 1 or 2. So it's a topic that is still relevant because many of us still make some of these mistakes, and hopefully today you're going to be able to uh, learn how to avoid making these mistakes when you're conjugating these verbs that are not that difficult. It's just that maybe we haven't practiced enough, or when we practice, we don't know exactly what to choose. So sometimes we just guess. So the purpose of today's class is give you the best tools for you to guess correctly. So today's topic, it's called It's a Long Story. It's a long story. So we are going to open up the lesson with a short reading and reading comprehension. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to take a look at the questions first. So you will see that these are the points that we have to pay attention to, and this is the information that we need to obtain from the reading. Okay. So I'm gonna start kind of backwards. I'm gonna give you the quiz first. You're gonna be able to review it, and then we're gonna go to the text, and we're going to try to focus on that on these specific pieces of information. Okay. Sometimes when you know exactly what to look for in a text, your reading becomes more effective. Otherwise, I notice that certain students feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of information and sometimes you don't know exactly what you should be paying attention to. So we're going to read Dan's story and then we're going to be able to answer these questions. So let's pay attention to the questions, and I'm going to ask some people to help me reading starting now. So everybody can participate and I can feel that more people, of course, are reading with me. So I'm going to ask maybe Liz, if you can help me, Liz, reading the questions. These are the questions that we need to pay attention to, and this is the information that we need. So can you help me reading the questions only?
All or only one?
All of them are fine.
Okay. Eh, where did Dan lie before he moved to Seoul? Why did he want to go to South Korea? How did he get this job there? What does his new company offer him?
Okay, very good. So first, we are going to try to find out more about the life and the story of Dan, right? So where did Dan live before he moved to Seoul? So remember, we're talking about international students. So the word or the city Seoul is is from South Korea. Okay, it's a city in another country. Why did he want to go to South Korea in the first place? How did he get his job there? Like process, what had to happen for him to get his job there, and some of the benefits that he got from his company. So we have that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the reading. So here is the reading. Now, the name of or the title of the reading is Living Abroad, Dan's story. Okay. So before we start, I think that we need to make sure that we understand the vocabulary or the terminology of this reading, at least the title. So that is something that I recommend 100% of the times. If there is something in the title or in the introduction of a reading that you're having, and this is not clear to you, take a second, grab your dictionary, and find that out. Why? Because the introduction gives you a lot of information. And the title gives you a lot of information and it prepares your brain to absorb the information better. So if I know what the title and the introduction is about, I will probably do a good job reading the rest. But if I do not have the title clear and I do not have the introduction clear, that pretty much says that I'm going to have problems understanding the rest of the text. So I need somebody who can help me uh, finding out what the word abroad means. Okay. So, or if you know it by heart or if you know it by memory, go ahead and put it in the chat or unmute your microphone. But what we can't move on if we don't know what the word abroad is. So what is abroad? How can you explain what the word abroad is? So,
En el
in,
extranjero.
okay, en el extranjero. Thank you very much. So that is the key of everything. So the key of the reading is knowing that, okay? So every time that you grab a new text, anything, an article from a magazine or maybe a chapter of a book, uh, go ahead and pay attention to the title or any other kind of help that you have out of your own country or outside of your own country. Thank you very much, Carolyn. Great. So those are ideas that we can have before we start reading. Okay, so now you know that the story of Dan pretty much is about that. It's about living in another country that is not your own. So now we can go ahead and read. So living abroad, Dan's story. Dan Anderson was born in the USA. He's now living in South Korea. We ask him, how did you end up living in Seoul? So probably we may have friends or family who have similar stories, right? Who live in another country, or maybe this is probably your story. You used to live in another department of Guatemala, for example, and now you live in the city, or now you live in Chimaltenango, or now you live in Petén, and you have a story on how you got there. So it could be you or a family member, but we are familiar with this kind of situations. So let's go ahead and take a moment to read. So I have 5 paragraphs. They are kind of small. So I'm gonna ask 5 different people to help me reading. Okay. So I'm gonna go with, let's see here. I'm gonna ask Luisa. I'm going to ask Carolyn, Daniel, Freida, and Oscar to help me in this moment. So let's start with Luisa. Luisa, can you help me reading the first paragraph, the big one?
Okay. Dan, well, it's a long story. Before I came here, I spent 3 years working for a small company in Tokyo while I finished doing my master's in business. To be honest, I wasn't planning on leaving or anything. But one day I happened to be in the office and one of the salespeople was looking at job ads online.
Hey, thank you very much. So let's go with Carolyn. Can you help me with paragraph number 2? If you need a minute, I can skip you and ask you to go later. Daniel, are you ready? Can you do paragraph number 2?
He knew, right?
Yes, that's right. That's the one.
He knew I was considering going to South Korea someday. You see, my mother is South Korean, and I've always been interested in the culture and everything. And anyway, he leaned over and said, Dan, this seems to be the perfect job for you. Check this out.
Okay, perfect. Go with Friseida. Can you help me with number 3?
I looked at the app. I don't remember thinking, shall I bother to apply? apply? But I decided to go for it. Even though I did expect to get it, and to make a long story short, I got the job.
Very good. Oscar, can you do the next one?
The company offered to transfer me to Seoul, and they agreed to pay for me Korean language lessons. I started working here 2 months later, and the rest is history.
Perfect. Just give me a second, guys. Give me 1 second.
Teacher, no tiene audio.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm back. Thank you very much. Carolyn, are you able to read the last one?
Yeah, now I'm here.
Okay, good.
I mean, I miss living in Japan, but you can have it in both ways, I guess. Actually, I can imagine living anywhere else now.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So we have a better idea on of what's happening with the life of Jan. So I want to refresh your memory on the information that we need from the text, okay? The information that we need from the text is where did Dan live before he moved to Seoul? So we're going to have to search through the text and try to get that information, okay? So we know that he is now in Seoul, South Korea, but where did he live before he moved? So that is in the text. Now, number 2, why did he want to go to South Korea? What is the reason why he wanted to travel there? Number 3, how did he get this job? Like, what's the story behind it? And number 4, what did his new company offer him? What are some of the benefits that his company offered? So, I'm going to take a screenshot because I think we cannot do both ways. So I'm going to take a screenshot. Let's see. Yep. Sorry for that. I'm going to send the screenshot to our WhatsApp group with the questions. And I'm going to leave the text on the screen. Okay, and I'm gonna give you, let's say 4 minutes to answer the questions, okay? So el texto se va a quedar aquí en la pantalla, so I'm gonna leave the entire text in here, but the questions are in the WhatsApp group, okay? So you can go ahead and read the questions from there. And in 4 minutes, I'm going to ask 4 random people to help me answer each question, okay? All the information is in the text. You probably are going to have to read that a couple of times before finding some of them, but that's part of the challenge. So let's just start counting the 4 minutes now. So let me play it just now. Okay, so the chronometer is running. 4 minutes. Just have to find the answer. Si les sirve apuntarla, apúntenla, pero no les estoy pidiendo que la manden por input ni nada. O sea, so if you want to write it for your own reference, that's okay. Go ahead and do it. You don't have to send me anything, but you will have to answer verbally when I ask you if you are a lucky winner. So 3 minutes and 30 seconds. One minute and a half before the time ends. Thirty seconds. Okay, time is over. Thank you very much. Let's stop. And let me ask a couple of people the following answers. So let me start with Luisa. Luisa, give me a number from 1 to 7.
6.
It's you. 6 is you. Okay, so
Okay.
you're gonna have to answer question number 1.
Okay.
So let's go back to the questions. So question number 1 says, where did Dan live before he moved to Seoul?
He lived in Tokyo, Japan.
Okay, very good. We have that. He lived in Japan. So it says, I spent 3 years working for a small company in Tokyo while I finished doing my master's business. Very good. And then here he says, I miss living in Japan. So a couple of places. Very good. Let's give me another number from 1 to 6, from 1 to 7.
3.
Okay. Friseda, number 2. Uh, question number 2. Question number 2 says, why did he want to go to South Korea?
He had planned to. He has offered a job.
He was offered a job. Yes, that's correct. Very good. Give me a number from 1 to 7. Friseda, can you give me a number from 1 to 7? I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna go with Karen. Karen, number 3. How did he get his job there?
He applied for a job online.
That's perfect. And can you give me one number from 1 to 7?
1.
1. Okay, very good. Caroline. Caroline, what did his new company offer him?
Because no, not because the offer he was offered is that they were going to pay for his Korean lessons, and he wanted to go there because his mother is South Korean, and he wanted to visit there because of the culture of his mother.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So lots of reasons, right? But the benefit that he got from his company is that they agreed. Of course, first they offered him to transfer to Seoul, and they agreed to pay for the Korean language lessons. So that's good. So we have that covered. Thank you very much for helping me, and thank you for the rest who really tried and if you got the answers right, congratulations. So now you have at least a sample from our classmates on what was the correct answer to each of the questions. Now, while we were reading and now that we are of course listening to the different answers to the very specific questions, there are certain ways in which these people, or in this case, Dan, when he's telling his story, he's using the language, and I want you to pay attention to that. So I want you to help me completing the sentences. These are just 2 sentences or 2 exercises, but we're missing the correct conjugation of the verbs in here. So I want you to do your best on remembering the conjugation of these verbs based on what you just read, or at least do your best in completing them as you think they are correct. For example, I considered what do you have here? The word study. Okay. How can I make this work? Do I just put the word study? I considered study electronics, or I considered studying electronics, or I considered to study electronics. I mean, what's the right one? That's what I want you to do, and I want you to try. And of course, we're going to talk about the correct options. But for now, I want you just to experiment with you a bit on the conjugation of these verbs. Again, some may sound right because when we translate some of these expressions to Spanish, they are the same to us. But in English, there are different applications and not everything is correct all the time. So the purpose of today is just to experiment with that. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes for you to finish this exercise. Do a little research if you wish. Go ahead and read the text again if you have access to it, or um, maybe think about it and don't just guess at on the first try. So this is the only thing that you have to do, but you only have 3 minutes. Let's see how that works out. Okay, time's over. So let's take a look at some of the ideas that you presented. Okay, so I'm just going to present some of these, and of course, I'm not saying that all of them are correct. We are going to review the reasons behind the conjugation, the correct conjugation, and how to make better choices when we have these type of complex sentences. So if you paid attention, these are sentences that we called complex sentences or compound sentences because we have more than one verb in the sentence, right? So I think that that's the complication in here. We have more than one action in these sentences. So for example, I have the word considered, which is already a verb, and then I have to use the word study in the middle because that's what I was required And on the second part of the sentence, I have the same thing. Ended up, it's another verb, and they are asking me to include the word do as well. So it's quite an exercise to try to think what is the best way to conjugate this. And the first of the problems is it comes because when we are speaking Spanish or when we are trying to translate this to Spanish, for us in Spanish is the same thing. We don't have any differences when we translate the word I considered studying or I considered to study electronics. There's no difference. For us, it's pretty much the same. Now in English, there are certain considerations that we need to make. So these are some of the choices. I expected to graduate it in 3 years, okay? I decided to change my major, okay? So that's another one. Let's see what other people say. I considered to study. I ended up thus, okay? And I expected graduate. I decided change my major, okay? Let's see what other says. I considered to study. I ended up doing. I expected graduate. I decided change. Okay, okay. I considered studying. I ended up doing. I expected graduating. Then I decided changing. I considered study. No changes. I ended up to do. I expected graduate. I decided change. Nothing else. I considered studying. Ended up doing. Expected to graduate. Decided to change. Considered studying electronics. But I ended up doing. Expected to graduate. Then I decided to change my major. Okay, so let's see if we can find these in the rules that we have ahead. So first of all, something that we need to remember is that when we have two verbs, right? It's something that we call the verb complements, right? So you have your initial verb, and you have another verb that it's a verb complement. And we normally have these kind of verbs to try to explain something, right? So here in our previous exercise, we are trying to explain something. So he's trying to explain the reason behind his decision, right? I considered, and then the word study electronics, but I ended up doing math. So we normally use verb complements to explain things, right? So sometimes you want a verb to follow the main verb in a sentence, right? So when I say the initial verb, I think I mean the main verb. Maybe it's clearer. So the main verb and a verb complement. So you have the main verb of a sentence, and then you have a second verb. That's why I was calling these sentences compound sentences or complex sentences, because they have more than one verb. In this case, we are connecting two verbs. Now, something that we need to understand is that when we have more than one verb, we need to do something about it. So, for example, the other sentence said, consider studying. I considered. And then we have here, we have the word study. Okay. We have two verbs. We have the verb, which we call the main verb. In this case, that is the word considered. And then we have a verb complement. Now, something that we must do when we connect verbs, something that we must do is either do the verb ing or to plus the infinitive of the verb. Okay? We must do one or the other. If I say I considered study and don't do anything else, this is wrong. Very, very wrong. We do not connect verbs by just putting one verb after the other. That doesn't happen in English. You have to do something. You have to decide for this option. So that means that you have to decide for the word studying, or you have to decide for the word to study, but you have to do something about it. So in the previous exercise, if you did nothing, if you just put study or the verb without any change, that is wrong in English. That is wrong in English. So you have to do either one or the other. Now, the challenge here is to know which is which, right? When do I use the word, in this case, studying? I considered studying and I considered to study. So that's the challenge. But you have to know that you have to make something about it. You do have to decide one or the other. Nunca se queda el verbo sin nada. Es decir, I considered study o I considered cualquier verbo solo pegándolo al final, that is incorrect. So that's not gonna happen. So for starting now, you are not going to do that anymore. Okay? You're not going to do just the verb. You have to do something about it. Sometimes we can make mistakes by selecting this or these, right? So you can say, I consider studying, and maybe the context was wrong and you had to do this and you had to select this one. That's fine. But you have to select one or the other. Now, some verbs can be followed by only the form verb ing, and some verbs can be followed by the form to and the verb be. So something that we need to understand is that some options are just going to be this, and some options are just going to be this. Algunos verbos solamente vamos a poder escribirlos de una forma o de otra. Por ejemplo, I considered studying. Si este fuera el caso, solo vamos a poder escribirlo de esta forma, este verbo. Nunca va a poder ser I considered to study. Eso lo vamos a ver en un ratito y vamos a ver qué verbos son. But just for the initial thought, there are going to be some verbs in which you will have to decide one or the other. And the verb particle can be followed by the word ing, preposition. Esto ya lo habíamos visto. Cuando tenemos una preposición, por ejemplo, como la palabra at, ¿verdad? So, I'm good at, and then they give me the verb draw. The word at is a preposition, right? The word at is a preposition. So you can only use ing when you have a preposition like this. So I'm good at drawing. So that this is what this rule is saying. When you have this type of cases, you have to pay attention if it's a preposition or a particle like this, and the word will be completed with the verb ing. That's the rule. So let's go to the actual rules before we move forward. Verbs in this list are followed by the verb ing. If you have these verbs, then the next verb is ing. Okay? The word considered, finish, imagine, miss, mind, or spend. And here I strongly recommend for you to write it down as a list, okay? So verbs consider, finish, miss, mind, imagine, spend. These are verbs that are going to my list as the verbs that are followed by ing. No se me confundan. Yo no estoy diciendo que estos verbos son los que tienen que llevar ing, sino estoy diciendo que si usamos estos verbos, el siguiente verbo va a ir con el ing. Okay, that's what I mean. So here it's supposed to be a verb in past, so I apologize in advance for the misspelling. Here it's considered. It's supposed to be a past verb. So he considered taking the job. So this means that he considered to take the job might not be the right option. Why is that? Because the word considered is in the list. If you have the word considered, the next verb must be in ing form. He considered taking the job, not to take the job. This is incorrect. That's why I told you to take notes and make a list on your notebook, on your computer, or wherever you're taking notes. This is something that you're going to need. Unless that you're great at memorizing things. I'm not. I have to write things first and practice. And with practice, I will probably be memorizing them all. But at least for the following exercises, you might have to reconsider that and maybe just take a list of that. Make a list of it. So this is what happens. We are going to use these verbs together, but the next verb will come with ing. Okay, so that's the meaning of this rule. So let's take a look at these verbs. Okay, this is a second slide. I just mentioned this a moment ago. When you have a particle or a preposition, cuenta como una partícula o una preposición. Palabras como end up, esto es una partícula. On, in, at, about, esas son preposiciones, okay? So you have verbs that already have that. Se recuerdan que los phrasal verbs son verbos que están compuestos por dos palabras, ¿verdad? Como wake up, take out, go in, etc. So those are verbs which are already verbs that come with the particle, okay? So when you have these verbs like end up, keep on, plan on, think about, these are verbs that are followed by a particle or a preposition. And we just said it a while ago, just a few minutes ago, that you should use the word ing after these verbs, okay? Entonces, si tengo la palabra ended up, right? Entonces, he ended up taking the job. ¿Por qué estoy usando ing acá? Porque si los verbos que estoy usando antes tienen una partícula, una preposición, la siguiente palabra, el siguiente verbo que estoy intentando pegar, tiene que ir con ing. Esta es la explicación, ¿ok? Si tiene partícula o tiene preposición. He ended up taking the job. Si yo digo, he ended up to take the job, that sounds weird and it doesn't sound really natural. And some of you probably already know that. Ya incluso algunos de ustedes ya saben que esta era la forma correcta. Bueno, porque lo hemos leído, lo hemos escuchado, lo hemos hablado. Sin embargo, a veces no sabemos el por qué. We don't know the reason behind it, and sometimes we make mistakes just because we are guessing. So today we are no longer guessing. Today we know that if the verb, the main verb of the sentence comes with a preposition or with a particle, the next verb is going to be an ing verb, okay? So he ended up taking the job. How did you end up leaving here? I wasn't planning on leaving Japan. So these are sections of the text where we can see this happening. End up, and then the next verb, ing, plan on, and then the next verb in ing. Esto aplica para todos los tiempos verbales. So this could be a sentence in past, in present, in future. It doesn't really matter as long as you, of course, use the correct order of words. For example, he ended up taking the job. This is a simple past sentence. Ended up, that's a simple past verb, right? He ended up taking the job. How did you end up living here? This is a simple past sentence again. And I wasn't planning on leaving Japan. This is a past continuous sentence. I wasn't planning on leaving Japan. So this is a past continuous sentence. Again, you can use this in different tenses. You just have to pay attention to the verbs and making sure that you're putting them in the right tense. But that's it. Now, what happens with the rest of the verbs? what happens to those verbs that come with an infinitive form? Aquí voy a hacer un poquito de memoria. Gerund es a todos los verbos que le llamamos que terminan en ing, ¿ok? Infinitive son aquellos verbos que les agregamos la palabra to más el verbo, ¿ok? So, los que acabamos de ver en las diapositivas anteriores, todos eran gerunds, ¿ok? That's the way that we're going to call that conjugation. And infinitives are the ones that we're studying right now in this very specific slide. Otra listita de palabras que nos va a servir, así que les recomiendo copiar. So, agree, offer, decide, seem, expect, happen, intend. These are verbs that are followed by the infinitive. So, for example, he decided to take. He decided to take. They agreed to pay. They didn't expect. I guess está malo, ¿eh? No es didn't expect it, sino didn't expect to get the job. Entonces, si miramos algunos de los iniciales, ¿verdad? Miremos que estos no se están traslapando. Es decir, los que funcionan con ing no funcionan con los infinitivos. Vean que son verbos diferentes. Agree, offer, decide, seem, expect, happen, intend. All of these go well with the infinitive. He decided to take the job. They agreed to pay for Korean lessons. I didn't expect, hay que corregir esto. I didn't expect to get the job. Another one. Este es el único que tal vez vamos a tener que anotar como exceptions, okay? These are going to be the only exceptions. These verbs can be followed by ing or infinitive. Estas son algunas de las excepciones. Como todas las reglas en inglés, la verdad, ¿no? Entonces, la palabra begin, start, hate, bother, like, continue, and love. Estos pueden funcionar bien de una forma u otra. Por ejemplo, I began to do the work. I began doing the work. Should I bother applying? Should I bother to apply? So if you see, these do not change the meaning and they don't sound weird. Entonces, no se siente como en los otros. Los otros, si nosotros le cambiábamos de gerundio a infinitivo, algo se oía raro, se sentía raro. Why? Because English probably, we have never heard sentences like that in English in the past. So let's go ahead and do a little exercise. So before, I haven't finished the cases and the rules. We have more of these. So tengo dos diapositivas más de casos y reglas, pero no las vamos a terminar de ver. So we're not going to finish them all. So let's do a little exercise. I'm going to give you a few verbs and I'm going to ask you to do a couple of sentences with them, okay? So let's start by working sentences with these verbs, okay? Consider, finish, imagine, miss, and spend. So I'm gonna open an activity. The following main verbs. Recuerden que este ejercicio es no solo oraciones que lleven un verbo, ¿verdad? Sino que van a usar estos verbos que yo les estoy dando para crear oraciones con el main verb y adicionalmente vamos a agregarle un verbo complementario, ¿verdad? Verb complement. So, el verb complement se los dejo a su imaginación. Ustedes pueden hacer cualquiera, okay? So, that's the first activity. So, write 6 sentences using the following main verbs. Les voy a dejar un ejemplo aquí en el chat. No en el chat, aquí en la pantalla. So, ok. Esta es una oración que yo me acabo de inventar. Me decían que tenía que utilizar la oración, el main verb considered, y yo sé que estos verbos, todos los que están acá, necesitan un siguiente verbo en ing. No puedo decir they considered to quit their jobs. They needed an ing verb after it. Entonces, esto es lo que yo me inventé. Ustedes pueden usar la misma base y cambiar la palabra quitting for another verb in ing. It doesn't really matter as long as we finish all 6 sentences. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to finish all 6 sentences. No van a tener el timer en la pantalla, pero sí lo voy a tener yo acá en el cronómetro. So let's go ahead and start and work for 5 minutes. Ahí les dejé el ejemplo de la uno. Ustedes tienen que hacer el resto eh, utilizando la regla. Ahorita no se los mezclé, solo son verbos que son el verbo inicial o el main verb, el que tienen acá, y el siguiente verbo es el que ustedes se tienen que inventar para crear una oración. Y ese verbo tiene que ir en ing. Ya les di el chivo. Vamos por 2 minutos con 50. So that means that you have almost 2 minutes. If you're done, go ahead and send your answer, okay? If you finished before time, before the time is over, go ahead and send it. So I can start reviewing them. The reviewing them. 30 seconds. Nos quedan 30 segundos. Hasta dónde han llegado. Doesn't matter. If you were able to do just a couple, that's fine. Okay, let's go ahead and start sending whatever you have. Empecemos a enviar ahí lo que tenemos. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Very much. Okay. So let me erase this part. Okay, so here are a few ideas. So let's see. Um, let me go ahead and ask Luisa. Luisa, can you go ahead and help me reading the first three of your list?
Okay. I consider looking for a new opportunity abroad.
Mhm.
She finished cooking many chocolate cakes. He missed drinking coffee in the mornings.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And again, we are paying attention to the way that we're connecting words. Okay, noten que aquí hay dos verbos, consider y look, que es ver o buscar, finish y cook, miss and drink. Pero nunca podemos dejar esta conexión así al aire, ¿verdad? Es decir, poner consider y look juntos, sin nada. En algunos casos dijimos, you're going to need the infinitive. Consider to look. No es el caso en este caso, ¿verdad? Pero hay algunos que sí van a permitir hacer eso. Aquí estamos viendo solo los que usan ing. Consider looking, finish cooking, missed drinking. Okay, so that's a very good example. Let's take a look at another one. Here, I miss summertime. Ok, muy bien. Aquí estamos bien al principio, solo que nos faltó agregar los dos verbos, ¿verdad? El have, en este caso, necesitábamos consider y look, ¿verdad? Y finish, ahí está bien finish, pero necesitábamos otro adicional a este. Voy a dar un par de ejemplos más, tal vez queda más claro. Let's see here. Liz, let me read, or let me hear you read the first three.
Okay. She considered working in Alemania. They finished cooking Italian food. He missed 1 year studying at the university.
Okay. Okay, very good. So the number one, I think we have to fix the verb. She considers, because it's a in this
No,
case,
she.
right? It's she, right?
Okay.
She considers working in Germany. That's good.
Okay.
Number three, I think is good. It's just changing the order of the words. He missed the studying 1 year at university. So we can have both verbs together.
Change the
Mhm,
word.
Change the order,
Okay.
but that sounds good. Let's
Thank
do,
you.
you're welcome. Let's do another one. Let's do, um, Karen, can you do the first three?
He considered taking a class for business.
Mhm.
I finished reading a book to my classmates. I miss taking guitar classes.
Very good, very good. I think the first two sound better if you're telling a story in past. So, for example, he considered in past, right? He considered taking a class for business. Number two, the same. If you finished reading the book, then it's I finished reading a book to my classmates. I think that the conjugation is good. Just reconsider the tense of the verb, right? If it's past, it sounds better. Now number three is perfect. I miss taking guitar classes. I don't think I have any comments about that. Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, good. So that is the purpose of these kind of exercises, right? So for us to feel familiarized with it. We might not be able to remember all the rules or all the lists, right? So this is the list, this is another list, this and another list. So I really find hard to believe that we're going to be able to memorize all of that uh, in one night. I think it's impossible. Maybe not impossible, but it misses the point. I think that the point is you're getting so familiarized with these verbs that every time that you hear a sentence with that verb, you kind of instinctively know what's the best choice. So at the end of the day or at the end of the year, you might not be able to remember all the rules or all the lists, but you are so familiar with English that you immediately know how a sentence sounds right and how a sentence sounds wrong. And it's already happening probably. And you already feel some of that, right? So when you're writing something, you feel that is weird, right? Is not entirely correct, but you don't know exactly why. You just know that there are certain things that work well and there are certain things that do not work well. So that's what I'm trying to cause or provoke with these kind of exercises, that we repeat these words, that we try to put them or bring them to our context or start imagining sentences with them or stories with them in a way that we feel more comfortable with these words. Because, of course, if we do not practice, is going to be it is going to be a lot more difficult to understand. So I still have several slides, not that many, maybe a couple of slides that I'm missing from the text and the explanation of the grammar points, but I will leave them for tomorrow. Okay, so we don't, of course, overwhelm our brains with a lot of information. I do have a couple of readings that I would like to have with you out loud so we can practice a little pronunciation and we can, of course, experiment new vocabulary words. These are readings that are in the intermediate kind of in the middle. I will say that is intermediate, kind of advanced reading tests. So I'm gonna pl paste this here and I'm gonna go to the exercise. So the reading that we're gonna have today is called Dream Jobs. Okay, Dream Jobs. So let's see if I can increase. There we go. Mhm. Maybe less. There we go. Okay. So we have since we're talking about jobs and we saw the story of Dan a while ago, we have different like testimonials from different people who have certain opinions about their dream job. Okay, so it says we asked 4 young people what their dream job would be and why. And here are their answers. So we have the story or the opinion of Ava, Emily, Sophia, and Mia. They have some of their opinions are remember that these are young people, okay? So they are probably not entirely sure what they want to do with their lives. They just have a dream. And I'm pretty sure that if you are young and you start dreaming about what the best job in the world could be, what would be your dream job, you will probably have a strong opinion as well. So let's go ahead and take a moment to read these opinions and let's try to grab some of the vocabulary, try to find some interesting words and bring those words into your vocabulary and hopefully you will be able to not just look for them in the dictionary and forget about them, but include them into your daily practice. So let's go with Ava. We're going to split the paragraphs in two because I think that the paragraphs are quite big. So we're going to split them in two so we can do the paragraphs in couples. So the first couple, I'm going to split it here. So I'm trying to put some marks to it. The first couple is going to be Carolyn and Daniel. So if you can help me with that. The first, I think, Carolyn, you're going to be the first. You're going to read from Pilot, and you're going to finish here, what says Taking Charge. And Daniel is going to continue the story from One of My Hobbies till the very end. The next couple is going to be Friseida and Karen. So I'm gonna help you split the paragraph in two parts, so you can have like a similar amount of lines. The next couple is gonna be Liz and Luisa, and the last participant is gonna be Oscar. So Oscar, you're going to work on the last paragraph with some of the classmates or one of the classmates, maybe if we can get somebody to repeat. So let's start with Carolyn. If you can please give us an introduction of what Ava says about her dream job.
Ava, a pilot. That would be my absolute, I don't know how to pronounce,
Mhm. Absolute.
absolute dream job. It isn't because I want to see the world, which everyone immediately thinks when I say what I want to do. Though it would be a bonus if I got to spend time on the ground somewhere exotic. I don't think that happens much in reality, though. I don't even like flying that much when I'm stuck in a passenger seat staring out of a tiny window at the clouds. I'd rather be up front taking charge.
Very good. Thank you. Sorry for that. I don't know why it's moving. But let's go with Daniel, the second part of the story.
One of my hobbies is making model aeroplanes with my dad. I know they can fly, and I know they're nothing like the real thing. But every time we bring a new one home to build, I go online and look up everything I can about. I've not only built hundreds of models, but I've built up my knowledge about planes too. I'm also really into physics at school, and I just think flying is really interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we have the first idea or opinion, and that's from Ava, which is becoming a pilot. Let's go with Emily. So we're going to split the paragraph. This is going to be Friseida and Karen. So Friseida, you're going to start here with I've had, and you're going to finish with noisy. And then I'm going to ask Karen to go from they love until qualifications, which is the very last one. So you can start Friseida whenever you're ready.
I've had hearing difficulties since I was really young, young, and I often just zone out and stop trying to keep up with things when there's a lot of background noise. It can be trying to keep in with my friends' conversations. My parents are both deaf, so I've been able to sing language for as long as I can remember. I'm teaching my friends now so we can communicate more easily if we're somewhere noisy.
Okay, very good. Let's go and continue with Karen for the second part.
They love it, and we discover how much I love teaching them. We have allowed when one of them gets wrong and signs something funny by mistake. So my I am I'm it's to
Aim.
be aim is to be a sign language teacher. Am I am unsure about it, how to go about it yet, and it's still a pretty new idea. But I am determined to find out what I can about it and make sure I get the right qualification.
Qualification.
Qualification?
That's right. Very good. So we have the story of Emily. This is a very interesting story. Let's go and talk about Sophia. In this case, this is going to be split between Liz and Luisa. So Liz, you're going to help me kicking off the first paragraph with I want to be a poet. And then you finish where it says aloud. And I'm going to ask Luisa to go from slam poetries.
I want to be a poet. I've been writing my own poems for a couple of years. The king of a story I do is called slang poetry. It is where you reflect on life experience. It is emotional and passionate and comes straight from the heart. I got interest in the when a poet came to school and gave us a workshop on it. He taught us about how to make the words flow and how to say it aloud.
Very good. Let's go with Luisa.
Okay. Slam poetry is performed in competitions. I've won two now. I was so nervous the first time I stood up, but then I focused on the message I want to get across to the audience, and then it just seemed easy. I love to get my poems published and carry on giving performance. People overlook poetry a bit, but this is the kind of style that gets noticed.
Thank you very much. And we have one last story, which is the story of Mia. And we're going to split it with Oscar. Oscar, you're going to begin with it. It says, my mom's a research scientist, and you're going to finish where it says citing stuff.
My mom's a rich scientist, and I hope to follow in her footsteps. I am pretty good and science at school, and I love biology. I think I'd like to work on developing medicines that sometimes that can really change the world, make a big difference to people's lives. I I'm fairly realistic about it, thought. I know I'll be to do years of study and groundwork before I get to any of the really exciting stuff.
Very good. And we finish that saying, even then, I'm probably not going to be a world famous scientist like Einstein. I know I'll just be a tiny part of the whole process, but I still think it would be amazing to work on the next big discovery, the next big cure. Imagine that. I also want to get more girls into science. A lot of the girls in my class want to be actors or singers, but that's not very practical, is it? And we finish the story of Mia. Now, if you pay attention, these stories have a lot of influence from British English. So there are certain words that are very common in British English that are noticeable here. Okay, so one of the things that I could notice is, for example, the way that they spell this, the way that they spell mum. So my mom is a research scientist. So even these changes in cultures, the way that the Americans do it is MOM, right? But the way that British people do it is MUM. Okay, my mum. So my mom and my mum. So it has some changes, even though we're referring to the same thing. It's not a big change, but it is there. So, what do we have here? They are talking about their dream jobs. They are probably very young people, as I mentioned before, and they are just imagining what they would like to do in the future, what would be like the best job for them in particular. I would like to have an idea of your dream job in a few words, if that's possible, before we leave the session today. So let's start with Oscar. Oscar, what would be your dream job? If you have to describe it in just a few words, what would be your dream job?
My dream job, I think, is um getting my own truck, 18
Mm-hmm.
wheeler, and work for myself.
Okay, that sounds great. It's a very good dream job, and you have it clear. That's good.
Thank you.
Lu Luisa, what about you? What is your dream job? Or what would be your dream job?
Um, is to live in another country. I
Okay,
find a a better job than what I have right now.
okay, that sounds good. But let's say that you get to live in another country. What would you like to do, or how would you like to make a living in that country?
Um, I don't know.
And
To
mhm,
maybe to have another lifestyle than right now with another, I don't know how to say, another environment. I don't know if it's correct.
yeah, yes, another environment.
More facilities that I have in this country, and more
Okay,
security.
that that sounds good. Would you like to do something similar to what you're doing right now? Let's say that you're offered a job and you are going to be, I don't know, maybe an assistant of of a boss in another country, but for example in Canada. Would you
Yes,
be okay with
pro.
that?
Yes.
Okay,
I
perfect.
think that is a better option for me. But
Hmm.
yes.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. So that's clear for us. I appreciate it. Let's go with Liz. Liz, what would be your dream job?
I am happy in my actual job, but my dream, I think, is work at Cervecería Centroamericana
Hmm.
or this agro company.
Okay, that sounds great. That could be uh something that you can achieve in the future as well. So congratulations. Thank you very much. Let's go with Karen. Karen, what about you? What's your dream job?
My dream work is I don't know how to say like azafata, like the ones
Okay.
going in the airplane.
That's called flight attendant.
Flight attendant, right? That.
Hmm. That sounds good. That sounds because why would you like to work in that industry? Is it because you like traveling, or is there any other reason?
Mhm. I think the first one is because I'm I want to go to around the world,
Hmm.
and I like to see like work with another or fly in another country or go back and forth and
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds very, very good. Appreciate it. And okay, your ideas were great, guys. Thank you very much. I think I have Carolyn here, but I don't know if you're able to talk. So send me a text or something if you are able to. I know that you were having problems with your computer, so your computer audio. I just wanted to make sure that you're able to participate. No, okay, no problem. So I just wanted to make sure before I skipped you. So that's how we're going to end today's class. We're connecting some of these vocabulary words to what we studied in our regular class. Now, I know that these are different words. I mean, there are certain expressions that I realized that it was hard for some of you to pronounce or to say, and this is just because, of course, we're very used to certain amount of words or certain contexts. And when we hear, read, or we try to speak outside of those contexts, it becomes a little complicated. So I'm going to be sending you the link. I'm sharing with you the link of this specific exercise, okay? And what I want you to do, and we're gonna, of course, clarify that later, but at least in your personal practice, is that if you don't know what to practice, if you're not sure where to start, if you want to improve your pronunciation and you want to have something to read tonight, for example, before you go to bed, you have 4 paragraphs here that you can perfect and you can improve every single day when you read them out loud. The very first moment when you're having problems pronouncing a word, well, that means that you're not confident about how that word is pronounced, and probably you don't know what that word means. So you have a learning opportunity right there. So that's what I want you to do. So if you want to practice something and you don't know where to start, here you have 4 very good intermediate paragraphs that you can perfect. And of course, if you don't know what a word means, that's exactly what you need to find out, because these readings are not super difficult. So that means that we should be able to read them in a pretty decent way. If you felt that you had some problems with the readings, that means that your vocabulary or the way that you're practicing your pronunciation of your vocabulary is not being efficient enough. Maybe you have to read a little bit more. So if you have another way to practice, go ahead and use that. If you don't have a plan for practicing speaking and pronunciation, I'm giving you one. Okay. Read one of these paragraphs before you sleep every single night and improve a little bit for the next day. After a couple of weeks, you will be a different person. You will probably see the difference on yourself as well. So I wish you the very best. Have some rest tonight. Tomorrow we will see each other at the regular time, and we're going to finish our pending topic. Remember, tomorrow we don't have a test. Our first test or quiz is going to be next week. Okay. Wish you the very best and have a great evening. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, guys.